Is the Guardian a gun you love to use, but when you do, it ends up like this, whiffing and wasting 2250 credits? Well, I too struggled with the Guardian, but when I implemented the correct steps and tips, I saw actual improvements. So if you want your Guardian to look like this, then keep watching. This video will be broken down into 5 key areas alongside bonus tips to set you on the right track. We all know how powerful the Guardian is. For the price of only $22.50, its value for money is extraordinary, but a big caveat is the proficiency required to operate it and be successful. Let's begin with the basics before diving deeper into more advanced concepts. Understanding the timing. And what I mean is the Guardian isn't fully automatic, meaning you can't hold mouse 1 and just sit back. You need to actively press it to shoot. And this is where timing comes in. Each weapon in Valorant has a timing where the weapon resets, and the better you can shoot at the correct timing, the easier it will be to use it. Just like my sheriff guide, we'll be heading to the range and shooting at a specific interval, where the Guardian essentially resets the gun at that particular interval so the next shot can be dead accurate. And I put quotation marks because of the first bullet accuracy, whereby no weapon when hip firing is dead accurate. Valorant launched yesterday, August 2nd, and there's a good chance the servers might not be stable. That's why you should get the 𝐅𝐴𝐸 gaming router, with its anti-packet loss technology actively working to reduce packet loss even when your connection is unstable. It also comes with an AIR mode that helps reduce high ping by using one of its 7,500 global node locations, with the ability to select the lowest ping server, enabling players to engage in gameplay across a spectrum of servers, ensuring both stable ping and rapid matchmaking. With just a simple swipe on your screen, it quickly locates the nearest match within a player-centric radius. Gear Up is safe, with most of you having already seen me promote them on the channel. Heck, they're endorsed by �10 and 𝙑𝙬. Get the 𝐅𝐴𝐸 gaming router to tackle packet loss, unstable latency, and cross-region play issues. Not only does the 𝐅𝐴𝐸 gaming router have 2 Ethernet ports, but it's under €100. Check out the links in the description and the pinned comment to find out why 𝐅𝐴𝐸 is the best gaming router. Load up a metronome on Google, set it to 70 beats per minute, and essentially tap at that speed. And the reason why it's 70 and not 110, which is the perfect speed to strafe shoot, it's we're slowly building ourselves to be optimal. And by starting with 70, which is slow enough to where everyone can be accurate, and build the right habits by not spamming our shots or missing that interval because we're not used to it. Got it? Perfect. To make things more enjoyable, have a song running in the background, typically 2 to 3 minutes, and take a rest, repeating this a few times. Once you're comfortable with this, let's jump by 10 and repeat it again until you can reliably shoot at 80 beats per minute, and eventually you'll get to a point where you can easily shoot at 110 beats per minute without missing a beat, which is the optimal speed for strafe shooting. When and where is the Guardian powerful? Before we move on to many of the active aiming scenarios, I need you all to properly understand the limitations of the Guardian, but more importantly, where it excels. As you all know, the Guardian is a high-powered weapon that excels in medium to long ranges and being inconsistent in short engagements. But why? Let's break it down. It deals 150 damage to the head regardless of the range, the same with the Vandal. And with the added 1.25 zoom on the scope, it makes it much easier to identify enemies at long ranges, allowing for easier distinction of the body and head. So why does its proficiency fall off in short ranges when you can clearly see the head? Well, that's due to a number of factors. Firstly, its heavily reduced fire rate results in you only landing 1 or 2 shots before being blasted away by a Phantom or a Vandal, heck even a Spectre. And when most players struggle with landing that initial shot, as let's be honest, that first bullet usually misses. So let's create a simple scenario to better illustrate my point. You're attacking on ascent and decide to push mid to market, and an enemy in market peeks out with a Phantom where you miss that initial shot and start doing this. Panicking and spamming that Guardian shot, which works in a similar way with the Sheriff, where spamming it makes you significantly more inaccurate, more so than a standard weapon. In this scenario, what could our Phoenix done better? Well, firstly, it's identifying positions and locations that significantly favor the Guardian. You wouldn't push short with a Guardian when your team is split in A. You'd go main, where you can be exposed to longer ranges favoring your gun. Secondly, it's panicking. Rule number 1 is don't spam the Guardian, even in close ranges. You're better off taking the time and tapping, and that's where finding the correct timing is so important. Even in close range engagements, you can still come out on top if you take your time. Passive aiming. Let's move on to what is arguably one of the biggest components to being successful with the Guardian, and that's passive aiming. To put it simply, it's how you aim in preparation for a gunfight, with elements such as the way you strafe, the way you position the crosshair determining how successful you'll be. And the Guardian emphasizes this even more than the Vandal and Phantom, where you have the safety net of spraying if all else fails. I won't go into too much detail as I have two guides that cover crosshair placement, so check those out at the end. Essentially, the position you're in, the angle you're holding will determine where to position your crosshair. For example, here are 4 different scenarios. Scenario 1, a long range angle but in a common area. Scenario 2, long range but in an off angle. Scenario 3, medium range and an off angle. And scenario 4, medium range but a common angle. Scenario 1, where would you position your crosshair when you're holding this sort of angle? A, B or C? If you chose B, you're correct. Let's for a second become the enemy. When they're peeking, they're clearing these common angles, and guess what? When they peek, they see you in a common angle, so they'll be better prepared for you, with their crosshair on or around your vicinity. From that, we can identify our crosshair needs to be within this zone, because they won't peek wide and expose themselves to several angles, so they'll peek just about enough to where you can see their body. Scenario 2, you're positioned here in an off angle holding this sort of area. In a situation like this, where would you place your crosshair to be as efficient as possible? A, B or C? Indeed, the correct answer is C. Whenever you're in an off angle, you'll be peeked further out than normal, and fundamentally when you break it down, it just makes sense. In the eyes of the player peeking, he's focused on pre-aiming the common angles, meaning he'll position his crosshair like this. So when you're standing in that off angle, they need to stop and quickly readjust to you. With that logic, we should always have our crosshair further out than normal when we're in an off angle. For long ranges, you wouldn't need to hold as wide, as this is due to the rule of angle advantage. The further one is from an angle, the sooner they'll see the peeking player. As a result, we wouldn't hold as wide, as our angle advantage is giving us that extra time before the enemy sees us. The same logic is used for scenario 3 and 4. If it's a common angle, hold fairly close to the angle, but enough to react and not like this. And scenario 4, hold wider. Eye tracking. This can be a contentious topic and itself can warrant a whole video, but it's something that I stand by and been doing for several years, initially watching 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 video before I played my games. Although I'm not sure on the data, but from an anecdotal point of view, I've seen significant improvement in my ability to react quicker, identify targets, track them better, focusing and concentrate for longer periods of time. All of which massively aided in having improved aim, which the Guardian benefits from. Simply head to the website in the comments and the description. Shout out to 𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 where I first saw this website in this video. It allows you to choose the speed, the size and the scenario to track from DVD, side to side, peekaboo, etc. I recommend keeping it slow and relatively big, and over time increases speed and reduces size. You may ask, when should I do this? And I typically did it just before I was about to play Valorant for a few minutes, and over time you'll see tangible improvements. Remember to not overdo it, as you can get your eyes pretty tired quickly. Bonus tips. Is crouching bad on the Guardian? Just like with other guns, it's situation dependent, but generally crouching with the Guardian isn't ideal, as your main goal should be to be able to play in positions where the Guardian excels, where crouching is never advised. But in close range engagements, it can work like this. However, it shouldn't be an instant reaction to seeing an enemy by crouching. Remember, being calm and composed will always prevail than crouch and spam. As let's be honest, no way you're crouching and tapping, it wouldn't make sense. You're going to be spamming that shot, and just like I mentioned earlier, spamming on the Guardian just leads to you dying. Last point, make sure your crosshair is on the target before you shoot. Pride yourself on being calm and taking the time to land the shot. Because of the lack of safety in such a spraying, it's imperative that you tap and take your time. If you enjoyed this guide and are serious about improving, check out my Vandal guide right here. It was just too far for me to crouch and spray. How to attack with the Vandal. This is where things get a little tricky because of how the Vandal